Hello and welcome to another episode of Stephen and Andy. I'm Stephen Babb, joined by Andy Chase. Today we're going to discuss the NFL, the fantasy leagues, Serena and Naomi Osaka, the Oakland Athletics, and winners and losers. So Andy, let's go ahead and start with the NFL. Week 1 just concluded, and there's a lot of storylines to get to. What stuck out for you this past weekend?
I think what stuck out for me was first the Jets. Of course, the Jets came and just exploded onto the scene with Sam Darnold. After his horrendous first play, he turned it around. They scored 48 points. A lot of that is due to their defense. Their defense played great. But Sam Darnold was a big stick out for me. And honestly, I never thought I would say this, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stood out to me like crazy. Ryan Fitzpatrick came into that game and looked like an MVP candidate, which none of us expected that.
Is that because you had Drew Brees and their defense in New Orleans on your fantasy team?
I don't have Drew Brees, but I do have New Orleans D, and they did get negative 5 points. So they played awesome.
No, absolutely. So in Tampa, do you think that now they have a decision to make between sometimes shows up Fitzgerald and famous Jameis Winston?
Well, I think they both sometimes show up because Jameis Winston will throw for 400 yards one game, then throw for 102 and 4 interceptions the next. So he's so inconsistent that I don't really know what they need to do right now because Fitzpatrick came out, played a great game. He needs to play the next game. That's what I think they should. They should definitely take it game by game, like play by play, because Fitzpatrick right now is rolling. And after beating one of the teams that's supposedly one of the best in the league, the Saints, they're like Super Bowl contenders, and they came out and they crushed them. I mean, the Saints came back and made it a great game.
Yeah.
But they were getting crushed, and nobody saw that happening. So I don't think you can take Ryan Fitzpatrick out.
Maybe a quarterback by committee. So that'll bring us to another storyline as far as quarterbacks go, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So Carson Wentz last year was on fire, and then he got hurt, and Nick Foles came in and took him all the way to a championship. I mean, they won the Super Bowl last year, which is insane for your backup quarterback to do that well in the playoffs, and especially in the Super Bowl. So what do you think you'll see from the Eagles moving forward?
Well, I think right now the Eagles are the juggernaut in this league. They have a great defense, great running game with Jay Ajayi, and then they have a nice quarterback duo that they can work with. But as far as Nick Foles goes, I think you can't play him any longer Carson Wentz. Yeah, you can't play him after Carson is healthy. Because Carson Wentz, like we were talking earlier, played 13 games, threw 3,300 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 101 passing rating. That's insane for a rookie.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah. I think if he wouldn't have got injured, I mean,
it's obvious. Rookie of the year, and I was saying MVP.
Absolutely, definitely a candidate if he doesn't get hurt. Like if he were to finish out the season, I definitely think he would be top 3 MVP candidate. Because I mean, the Eagles, it's been a while since we've kind of seen them at the top in their division. And last year was just
Donovan
incredible.
McNabb. It's been a long time.
T.O. played with a broken leg.
Yeah, those were fun Eagles teams.
They were.
The Eagles, they're special right now, and they have somebody special at their quarterback position. So I think that they got to ride him out as long as his career goes.
Absolutely. So, some other teams to look at. Aaron Rodgers had a fantastic comeback in Monday Night Football. That was insane for him to sit out most of the first half and then come back in the second half and just dominate the way that he did. He's on my fantasy team. So during halftime, I tweeted out a prayer hand saying, "Please, Aaron, come back. I need you for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns to give me a chance in my fantasy week 1."
Pretty close.
And it was 283 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's like if I had to bet on any guy, to lead a charge in the second half like that, it would be Aaron Rodgers, even on a bum leg. Which, what do you think the Packers can do this season? There's a lot of criticism over the Packers. I think it's 18 years of Favre and Rodgers. And they got like 2 Super Bowl wins.
Yeah. I think that's a big issue because, in my opinion, Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league right now, and he has been for a while. Tom Brady, he wins a lot. He is the GOAT. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. But in the league right now, Aaron Rodgers is the best. he can come out and do like what you said. No other quarterback can do that.
Yes.
And Brady's 40. He's not going to come up and score 24 points. But I'm worried about Rodgers' run game. They have nobody helping him out. They ran for 69 yards last game. That is so bad. You need to help. I mean, he doesn't need that much help, but you have to help him out in some way because their defense is not that good.
And I think their defense it's better than average,
Yeah.
but I agree. Is it enough to get them over the top? But as far as the run game goes, I mean, Chicago's defense had a huge bump in talent in the last couple weeks with the addition of Khalil Mack. So you can't really judge the Packers' running game on a game against that front line. That front line was insane. I mean, Khalil Mack had probably the half of his life coming out of the gate.
Oh, easy.
I mean, that was just incredible.
I mean, that was one of the better defensive games that I've ever seen from a player.
Absolutely. So you touched on Tom Brady and the Patriots. So I actually had a hot take going into week 1, and I believe, and nobody else does, but that's fine, that Father Time will remain undefeated. And old man Brady, I think, might not even make the playoffs this year.
I think that is an outrageous take, but he's 40.
Yeah.
And you could see it sometimes. Like his ball speed is not there compared to years in the past, which is obvious. Like we said, Father Time is undefeated. But you can't count out Bill Belichick, dude.
You can't. And what Belichick is a wizard at is taking people that you don't think will have a great season.
Philip Dorsett.
Yeah, putting them in positions to have a great season and then win the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
But, Tom Brady's also lost 2 Super Bowls. I mean, to and definitely inferior Giants team both times. And, you can kind of point at certain plays that, maybe this is the reason why they lost or this reason. But the fact that they get there is fantastic. The fact that they get there, definitely. But I have a feeling that this might be the year that they don't make the playoffs. I mean, look at other dynasties. Look at the Spurs. They almost didn't make the playoffs last year. They're definitely not making it this year. Every great dynasty does come to an end. I don't think LeBron's making it to the finals
But the
this
Spurs dynasty came to an end with all their players leaving. The
but
Patriots still have Belichick and Brady.
But Belichick's not on the field, and Brady is 40 years old. He'll be 41. Like that's insane. There's not who else is playing at the top of their game in football and the NBA in baseball.
Well, let's be honest. Nobody's playing at the top of their game at 40.
No. And
but
so
when you're as talented as Tom Brady is, him being slightly below the top of his game still puts him at the second best quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
So I think saying that they're not going to make the playoffs is pretty outrageous, but I could see in a year or two them being non-contenders.
Okay. So let's bring it a little closer to home. There was definitely a lot of expectation going into the season for the Oakland Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers. Lots of hype around Jimmy G. It's his first season as a starting quarterback, coming 5-0 to end last year and blah, 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 all this great hype. And he went out and didn't have the best game of his career, which is understandable. It's his 8th start. And it's not just an 8th start in a row. It's an 8th fragmented start, with between 2 different teams. What were your takeaways from the game on Sunday?
Well, I'm just going to, like Rodgers once said, all Niners fans need to RELAX. Relax. Just because Jimmy G went 15 for 33, threw 2 interceptions, didn't look that great, you're counting out what he did well. Or you're counting out what he did well. He threw the ball a couple times. That was his throw to Dante Pettis in the end zone.
Insane.
My God, off his back foot.
Maybe 4 quarterbacks in the league that
could do that. That was special. And when you see a play like that, it shows you something. And our offensive line was ravished that game.
It was.
We lost both of our right guards. We're down to a 3rd string. We had to move players over into positions they don't normally play. And Jimmy G had maybe 1.5 seconds to make his decision every time. And that's just not enough time for a guy who needs to be successful. So if we can fix our offensive line problems, our defense showed tremendous promise. I think our secondary is completely so much better than it was last year. Our D-line looked outstanding. DeForest Buckner looks like a defensive player of the year. Fred Warner, our rookie linebacker, double-digit tackles in like the first half.
When Foster comes back, he and Fred Warner as a linebacker tandem is going to be ridiculous. So I actually, for last couple of weeks has projected that the 49ers defense will be top 15, which last year they were 24th, which was, not great. And everybody said that their weakness coming into the season will be their defense. And I didn't see it that way. And everybody was saying it during the preseason games that, oh, wow, they look flat. They're just running, on their front line, just man to man. There's no quarterback pressure. But we've seen a lot of quarterback pressure against a good Vikings offensive line. It's not great, but it is good.
It's good.
I mean, the Vikings are favored to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, and the Niners definitely took it to the Vikings in Minnesota, which should be an eye opener for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
And I agree. Jimmy G, not the best game, but there were a lot of mistakes made across the board by everybody. And it wasn't, some of the mistakes, some of his throws weren't his fault. Some of them maybe were. Some of them miscues here and there. They lose Marquise Goodwin early in the game. He doesn't come back.
They lost McKinnon.
Not too long ago. McKinnon's not in there.
That throws you out big time.
It does, because he was, going to be
he was our big weapon that we picked up on the offense.
You got Alfred Morris making 2 fumbles down inside the one. One of them he recovered, the next one they didn't. Which, you take
Other
that.
Other than that, I was impressed by Morris, to be honest.
Yeah, I was too.
Jumping onto the team a week or two ago, coming out and making some nice plays.
So you take away that goal line fumble. You have one of our 2 cornerbacks turn their head on what were dimes by Kirk Cousins, but you turn your head and you can easily break up both of those plays. So just those 2 touchdowns right there, Niners could win the game.
Yeah. And Jimmy G completely overthrew, I think it was Kittle
in the back of the end zone.
Oh my!
He did.
So he really did have some bad plays, and he does not deserve much credit.
But every quarterback does.
Exactly.
Every game.
Every quarterback has a bad game.
Yeah, and not only that, a bad throw. Every quarterback has a bad throw every single game. That's just not, I think all the hype around Jimmy G, everybody expected just golden perfection.
Yeah.
But that's not realistic. 2, there's no quarterback that does that.
Yeah.
And so, let's talk about Oakland a little bit. So I'm on social media a lot. I'm on the Twitter, the Instagram, and Oakland fans are some of the most ruthless and outspoken fans ever on social media, especially here in the Bay Area, just, paying attention and following the people that I follow. Most of it is not fair, and they come out of the gate talking a big gang of mess Sunday night. Oh, Jimmy G, the golden boy, he's not golden anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then Derek Carr just absolutely lost it on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, that was...
the Rams are a great team. They're another, a possible favorite to come out of the West for sure, if not make it to the NFC Championship game. And, they're a fantastic team, but Derek Carr is I don't know. I think he lost his edge. He lost the nerve to stand in the pocket and make plays. Amari Cooper is suffering because of that. There's the whole passing game is suffering because he's 3 5-step drop. 3 seconds later, he's throwing it out of the sideline.
You would have thought that Jared Cook was the only receiver on that team.
Absolutely.
Jordy Nelson got about 3 catches, all of them under 10 yards. Cooper maybe targeted 3 times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Amari Cooper has been a huge disappointment. That dude has not shown up in 2 years. He's dropped balls. He has not helped out Derek Carr in any way. So I could see how the chemistry there might not be too well. And they just lost Bryant, who they're trying to re-sign. But I was extremely disappointed in the Raiders. They came out, they were hyped. John Gruden had the team hyped. And there's only so far that getting your players pumped up can get you. Eventually, the Rams showed that they are a much, much better team than the Raiders. And Derek Carr showed that he has regressed and that he might continue to do that.
Yeah, and then, so speaking of John Gruden, he made probably one of the biggest trades in recent NFL history. And getting rid of Khalil Mack, a former Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I understand where Gruden's coming from, and I understand why he did it, and I think it was an ego thing. And I think it was a message that he was sending to not just his team, but to everybody in the league. Like, I'm in charge. This is my team. We're going to run it how I want to run it. We're going to sign who I want to sign. We're going to pay him what I want to pay him and what I think is fair. And we're not going to be strong-armed. I think when a player holds out, they're strong-arming the team. They're strong-arming the GM. They're strong-arming the coach. And they're really not being a good teammate. I get it. Look out for yourself, get your money. But at a certain point, it becomes selfish, especially when you're going to start missing games because of this. You know, there's no guarantee for him to show up game 1, game 2, game 3. Would he have made a difference in Monday night? Absolutely. You know, but he wants to hold out to re-sign. It's like, bro, you still have a year left on your contract. You know?
That's what people are forgetting. He was still under contract. He clearly did not want to be there.
Yeah.
But when you have a player who is an perennial all-star in 2 different positions, I think you have to do whatever it takes to keep that guy. So, my opinion, terrible move by the Raiders. They have to strike gold with these picks that they got for him, or else this could go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history.
But what we just saw also last year before the start of the season, Donald Penn held out for more money.
Or Aaron Donald.
The start of last season? Donald Penn on the Raiders?
Oh, sorry. I thought
okay.
I thought you were talking about Aaron Donald.
No, so start of last season, Donald Penn on the Raiders held out for more money. And he had a very less than average season, especially for him. And I think John Gruden saw that happen last year on the Raiders, and wasn't going to let something like that happen this year. And I think the message has been sent loud and clear to the rest of the team. You hold out, I'm not playing ball with you. He's like, no one man is bigger than this team. You know, that's just not how it's going to go down. I'm changing the culture. I'm changing the way it's been done in the past. And, you know, Al Davis is famous for him franchise tagging Charles Woodson 4 times in a row. And just not letting him out of the team. And then at the end, kind of feeling bad, like, hey, you know, the team's not that good around you. Like, I'll release you. Go. And that's when he went to the Packers, and, you know, he was a stud.
Yeah.
He's always been a stud since Michigan. But, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, that's John Gruden's time. Like, he's seen, like, how to do this. Like, you don't want to play ball and you want to hold out, I'm not here for you. And so I think that's done. But that's going to do it for this segment on Stephen and Andy. When we return, we're going to take a look at fantasy football, Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka, and a little bit about the Oakland Athletics when we return. Welcome back to Stephen and Andy. So let's talk a little bit about fantasy football. So I haven't actually played fantasy in 5 years. So this is my first season back. I still don't actually.
It's clear.
I still don't actually understand what I'm doing in fantasy. But that's okay. I definitely had a better week than you did. So let's talk a little bit about fantasy and how it's changed. Fans watching the NFL.
I think fantasy has changed everything about the NFL, because before fantasy football, I would get up, I'd watch my Niners, and I'd watch all the local games that I would get just because I loved football. But you're not really invested in those other games. But when fantasy football came along, you're invested in almost every game. And it just makes the game so much more fun to watch when you're like, oh wait, that's my guy. When you're watching a highlight and he scores a touchdown, that just makes everything so much more fun about Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays.
Absolutely. So when I played, the last time I played, I was managing a restaurant in San Francisco. So I was working, 60 to 70 hours a week. I had no time to pay attention to fantasies. All my buddies had been playing it, and they're like, "Hey, you should play it with us." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I had no idea how fantasy worked. I'd never even paid any attention to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm a Niner fan. So I wanted all the Niners on my team. Naturally, right? Why wouldn't you? That's my team. That's the only game I really want to watch.
Exactly.
And so before the season started, we did auto draft, and I had Megatron. And I traded Megatron for Kaepernick. And the commissioner was going to block the trade. And everybody
traded
in a PPR league. So the commissioner was going to block the trade. And no, all my other buddies were like, no, he needs to learn his lesson. I was like, learn my lesson about what? Colin Kaepernick, he's a stud.
No.
And this is coming off their trip to the Super Bowl. So this is coming off the trip that they had in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. So this is 2013?
2014. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I was all excited. 2013?
I think they went 2012. Or no, I think you're right. No, I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. So it was coming off of that. And, I was all excited to get Kaepernick. They let the trade go through. And the first week, Kaepernick got me 28 points. I think Megatron had 16. So everybody in the league was like, maybe this guy's onto something. Is this some kind of genius?
Some sort of guru?
And then by the end of it, I had, I think, $125 in fines because I never paid attention to the waiver wire. I never traded any of my players. I didn't sit out guys in the bye week because I was working too much.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with you. Fantasy has definitely made watching the NFL way more fun. So I'm in it this year. I have the time this year to actually sit and watch the games, even though my wife hates the fact that I sit and watch every game. But my fandom, growing up, in the 80s, 90s, having a dislike for the Packers because the rivalry that they had with the Niners back in the day, and also, rooting for teams like the Jets.
Yeah.
And rooting for different defenses to do well.
It's just it makes it so much more fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I absolutely despise Seattle with all of everything. But I'm sitting there and I have to cheer for Russell Wilson because he's on my fantasy team. So, it just adds a whole nother aspect of football, and I can't imagine that it hasn't done anything but good things for the sport of football.
So, Sunday night, I'm watching the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, and I'm like, man, come on. I'm starting you in my fantasy this week. I need you. And then he gets hurt. It broke my heart to root for the Packers. It hurts. And, calling it, I need 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I tweeted that out at halftime, and he brought me 283 and 3 touchdowns.
See, you would never, ever care about something like that.
Absolutely not.
Before fantasy football. So that just shows you how it's important to the sport. It really is. It became one thing when it first started, and everyone's like, oh, okay, what is this, whatever. But now everybody plays it.
Well, you see, that's a big misconception because it didn't just first start. Do you realize that they were playing fantasy?
No, before, yeah, I know. I realized, people were doing,
apps, the apps, and it's
changed everything,
absolutely. But, there were guys that would have a poster board, draft, a legitimate-looking draft board, and they would sit around and they would pick players, in the initial draft off of a draft board before, cell phones and apps, smartphones and all that. You're a little too young for that.
Have you seen the fantasy league where they sign a waiver and whoever loses the fantasy league, they get a tattoo of the winner's drawing? The winner draws up the tattoo and they have to get it.
That is ridiculous.
And they've been doing it for 7 to 8 years. So then all the losers have the tattoos on their butts and on their thighs and stuff. It is so funny. They're like unicorns with Biggest Loser going across the unicorn rainbow.
That is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
So we're going to end on that ridiculous note. Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. Open. The big story, unfortunately, wasn't about Naomi Osaka's win. It was more about Serena Williams and the interaction she had with the line judge at the U.S. Open. So what's your takeaway from this? Well, maybe first explain a little bit about what happened.
Well, what happened was Serena, she got a code violation because I guess her coach The referees thought that she was giving the coach was giving Serena hand signals, but then Serena just said he was giving her a thumbs up. So she got a code violation for that. That riled her up. She's not playing too well. Slams her racket on the ground. She gets, I believe, that's another code violation for that, and she lost a point. And no, she didn't. Did she?
Yeah, she lost a point for
the racket. She lost a point there, and then after that, she
during a break
gets upset, starts talking to the ref. The ref, she's still upset that the ref considers her a cheater. She took that to heart, clearly. Calls the ref a thief for stealing her point. He gives her a game violation.
Yeah. So, a
game penalty.
A game penalty. So took a game away.
Yeah.
And you know what I think is unfortunate about this? There's a lot of back and forth between her and the line judge, and you know I definitely think it maybe started kind of the wrong way. You know, a coach giving a player a thumbs up. I mean, I don't think that's coaching.
It's not at all.
And it's, I understand that, they're not supposed to have any interaction. There's a lot of, rules set in place in tennis. And she, basically was taking a break. Coach gives her a thumbs up. I don't know what that could signal as far as an advantage to make it coaching. Then with the breaking of the racket. And like Serena said, actually, to the line judge, that's a warning. That's not a violation where you take a point worthy. I grew up watching John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, and they're cussing on the court. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And McEnroe's literally throwing a racket, away. And one interesting thing that I think about the emotions of tennis that people don't take into consideration is it's an individual sport. But unlike, say, golf, another individual sport, the lights are super bright. Like, literally and figuratively. You're standing with people on, risers on top of you, and there's nobody else out there. Mm-hmm. And when you're one of arguably the greatest tennis player in the world for the past decade.
She's the best tennis player I've ever, in my opinion.
And she's having, quite honestly, a horrible match. Mm-hmm. And the fact that she's frustrated and she's feeling all these emotions.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the line judge, if he had a hidden agenda here, if he wanted to take her down a notch, what he was doing. But the fact that all of these things kind of happened, it's understandable to me why she was as emotional, why she blew up. Mm-hmm. But one thing that she never did, she was upset that he was discrediting her character by assuming that she would ever cheat.
Yeah.
And I don't think she would ever cheat. There's all kinds of steroid allegations linked to the Williams sisters, which I honestly don't think.
I don't believe it.
They grew up in shape. And it's her and her sister. And they've been, very athletically built since high school.
Yeah.
I have friends like that were extremely athletically built in high school, and my friends didn't even work out. So, there is a thing to being naturally built. So I don't think there's anything there. And to kind of call her a cheater is kind of unfortunate. And then the breaking of the racket.
That's unprofessional, too.
Yes.
And like a ref should never be saying something like that. And I completely agree with you. Her frustration was obvious and it was clear. And the whole situation probably shouldn't have gone to the point that it did. And with her being so frustrated about her or him discrediting her character, at one point, I felt like she really needed to let it go, and that her just not playing well just completely got to her, and she was taking out all of her anger on that ref. Because when she was hollering at him for an apology, like, I understand that's not okay, but just, you got to move on. You got to focus back on the game. Like, you're a world-class athlete, a world-class player in your sport. You can't be doing things like that. And I realized that's not okay from the ref. And she didn't do that craziest stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't curse. She didn't really say anything terrible to the ref. She just said, "You're a thief." Mm-hmm. That is not bad.
And that seemed to be the tipping point, was calling him a thief.
A thief.
Which, I mean,
not F you.
Yeah, not anything crazy, but
thief.
You're a thief.
And that was verbal abuse.
And that was the game that was taken away. And
that's not
all of this, unfortunately, all of this hoopla and all this talk about the U.S. Open and about Serena Williams is
When
really
she
taking
lost.
away from Naomi Osaka.
Yeah.
Naomi Osaka probably played the match of her life. And she was phenomenal throughout the entire match. And, she grew up idolizing Serena Williams and really looking up to her. And, even, they talked to her before the match and she was a little bit emotional. Like, this is kind of like a dream come true.
Yeah.
Like, I always would have loved to get to this level. It's the U.S. Open. The lights are the brightest. And I'm going up against, my idol. It'd be like me going up against Jordan in one-on-one or something. It would just be insane.
And the pressure for her was so much higher than Serena.
Mm-hmm.
And she still, came through, and then none of this is about her. So that's really unfortunate.
It is. So that's going to do it for this segment. When we return, we're going to discuss the Oakland Athletics and go over winners and losers for the week.
Hi, I'm Dr. Celia Esposito-Noy. Thanks for watching the Solano College Sports Network.
Welcome back to Stephen and Andy. So let's start discussing the Oakland Athletics, since until recently nobody apparently wanted to discuss the Oakland Athletics in the national media.
It's sad. The Oakland Athletics are, if not, they're a top 3 team in this league at least, the entire league, and maybe the Red Sox are better than them.
And
but
the Astros.
maybe the Astros and the Yankees. But the A's are amazing. They're 8-2 in the last 10, 88 and 57, 3.5 games back. They can do it. And they're third in the league in home runs. They've got just a powerful offense. Their pitching is filled with a bunch of good relief guys. So I think I've never felt this way, but I really think we could actually win the World Series this year.
It's interesting you bring up pitching and offense. So Sean Manaea is out. Maybe out for all of next year.
They said that
Yeah.
looking like right now, because he's getting shoulder surgery, it's looking like he's not going to play in 2019.
And who else did you lost another
We
starting
lost Brett
pitcher.
Anderson as well.
Brett Anderson, that's right. So, starting pitching for Oakland has been suspect all season long.
Yeah.
Before the All-Star break, Manaea was pushing, I think, a 9.5 ERA before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And so, it definitely improved. It definitely got a lot better as the season went on. But yeah, your guys' bullpen is insane. And I don't really agree with what Bob Melvin is doing with starting relievers. And just this whole thing, I don't really, but I understand. You've got 2 holes in your starting pitching, and it's too late for you to really do much. But it's semi-effective, I guess.
At this point, it's more of damage control. We're trying to figure out how we can still win and do this. And by starting the relief pitcher, it kind of throws everything off for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of agree with you. It is kind of suspect, and it works sometimes. But
when you're a team that has all of this promise and all these aspirations in the postseason, damage control, that doesn't sound to me like you're going to make it very far.
Mm-hmm.
Now, offense. Your guys' offense is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
But let me throw a stat out there. I recently wrote a column on this. Let me throw a stat out there. When the A's don't hit a home run in a game, what would you think their record would be?
Probably not too good. Maybe they probably have 30 or 40 wins, maybe.
They are 14-26 in games they don't hit a home run. 14 wins and 26 losses in games they don't hit a home run. So the reason why I think this is
That's not a lot of games, though. They hit a lot of home runs.
They do.
Yeah.
But the reason why I think this is such an important narrative that nobody is talking about is because home runs in the postseason aren't that readily available. You're against top pitching. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times in a 7-game set, if it looks like it might only go 5 games, or a starting manager or the manager will use their first, second, and third guys in the rotation and then start the first guy again. Mm-hmm. So you're not seeing that 4th and 5th guy in a game. And just pitching is elevated, the pressure's on, and if the A's go into a wild card game, the chances of them going up against an ace and having to rely on a home run, it's not good.
I think I would take our chances in a wild card game over many teams because of our relief strength and the ability to pitch a guy 4 innings and then throw in Familia, Rodney. We have the best closer in the league in Blake Trinan. I mean, some people say he's not, but he is. And then we also have, did I say? Oh, Trevino.
Trevino.
We have Trevino, too. Those guys are solid. And then we have MVP runner-up Chris Davis. Dude's just a beast. He's the only person who's stopping JD Martinez from getting the Triple Crown. He already has 41 home runs this year. The dude is a monster. And the only thing I'm worried about is the age. We are young. There's a lot of guys who have not seen the postseason before and have not seen just everything's different in the postseason. So having guys that are not keen to that could definitely hurt us.
I think their age might actually help them because, when you're too young, you don't know what you don't know.
That's
and
true.
They have so much fun and out there playing. They don't have a care in the world. There's no pressure on them to be doing this, and I think that's actually going a long way into helping them be the best team in baseball since mid-June, which is crazy. And at the All-Star break, they were up and down between 500. They were,
they're
very
supposed
similar.
To win 70 games.
They were very similar to the Giants in the first half of the season.
We were talking about who's going to have a better record.
Yes, we were. And hey, that's another subject for another show, and I would love to go in depth about that at some point. But we're going to stick to the A's since nobody else is talking about them, and everybody always talks about the Giants. So, Oakland, I just don't see them being that successful in the postseason. And when they don't hit a home run, if you look at the team batting average, and you deduct all those home runs, which there's a lot.
Yeah.
The team's hitting in the 220s.
Yeah, our batting average to begin with is not great.
I think
we have one guy
average.
who's batting 300.
Yeah, you're at the league average at about 250, 255. So you remove those home runs, you're hitting in the 220s. That's not sustainable in the postseason at all because you're going up against top pitching. You're going into situations where you're going to need base hits, doubles. They do hit a lot of doubles and triples, in all fairness, but their ballpark is pretty big.
It is, and it is a pitcher's ballpark. People forget about that. Our ballpark is a pitcher's ballpark. Our sidelines are huge. So getting foul balls makes it way easier for them, but at the same time, I'm so excited for the A's. I really think we could do it, and I don't think that there's a team that could stop us at this point. Maybe the Astros, maybe the Red Sox, but at the same time, we've beaten both those teams in series multiple times. So it could happen, and I think it will.
Yeah, but it comes down to the one-game wild card right now. If I actually think that they should want to go after the division and not be satisfied with the second wild card.
No, yeah.
Because that's going to keep them out of the wild card game. You're going to have a longer, series to be able to, if you don't hit a home run, you come back the next game and hit a home run. If they're in a wild card game against the Yankees, especially in New York, I don't like their chances.
It's going to be tough, but like I said, with our relief strength, we can lock down a team for 6 to 7 innings, and the A's put up at least 3 runs a game. So I think we have serious potential this year.
Well, that's going to bring us to our next segment, winners and losers. So here on the Stephen and Andy Show, we like to take topics and kind of discuss if that person is winning or subject is winning or losing. So let's talk a little bit about your Oakland A's. You think they're winners or losers this season?
I think we're definitely winning more than the Giants. But as far as winners, yes, of course. We already have like 17, 18 more wins than we were projected. So they're doing something nobody thought before the year started that they would do. Definite winners.
So I think regular season, absolute winners. I think postseason, they're going to be losers this year. But look out for Oakland next year. So, Naomi Osaka, winning or losing?
I'm going to say she's losing on this one because all her fame got taken away by Serena's meltdown. So not only did she win the biggest thing you can in tennis, but I still think she's losing because she's not getting any credit for it.
Jimmy G, winner or loser?
Jimmy G, still winning because of that contract and the amount of games that he's played. But as far as after the last game, he needs to step it up if he wants to continue to be a winner. he's losing at this point in the season. 15 and 33 with 2 interceptions is never going to win anyone any games.
But who is he throwing to?
That's true. That's true. Dante Pettis.
It's George Kittle.
George Kittle, yeah.
So, Derek Carr, winning or losing?
Absolutely losing. Dude had a horrendous game. 3 interceptions, 300 yards. Looked completely confused. Looked a lot like Matt Stafford. She is big time. I think the Raiders in general are losing right now.
Yeah, so I would actually say Jimmy G is winning and Derek Carr is losing. And the reason why I would say Derek Carr is losing is maybe we've seen the best out of him. 2016 they go 12-4. He had a phenomenal season. Now I know he's battled injuries, but I think those injuries have cost him his playing ability. It's cost him his playing ability. So I would definitely say Derek Carr is losing.
Yeah, he's playing suspect. He's playing scared, and you're always going to be losing.
So stick with the Raiders. John Gruden, winner or loser?
Big time loser right now. Loses his first game. The Raiders didn't look great. He's winning big time on his contract as well, like Jimmy G. $100 million guaranteed. Are you kidding me? But
Khalil Mack trade.
Yeah. That I still think that's going to be a loss unless they strike another Khalil Mack in the draft.
Chance of that not happening.
Not happening.
So that's going to do it today on the Stephen and Andy Show. Until next time, I'm your host, Stephen Babb, with Andy Chase.
The exponential growth from the program from my first year to my third year now, that's what keeps me coming back and keeps me excited and just like fulfills me as a person.
It's so impressive, and we every time we walk in here, you guys are doing something different. It's great. It's
nothing but opportunities here, and we have sports to cover, we have the equipment.
Because the more ambitious you are, the more opportunities you'll have.
On-the-job training is huge.
Get the hands-on experience.
When someone asks who can do it, you can raise your hand and say, I can do it. So
Joining the class was the best decision I ever made.
We're going to go to cut one. And cut one. Cross court to Audrey Jones. Audrey for 3. And it's good! With 1.3 seconds left on the game clock. Audrey Jones with one of the biggest shots ever.
the sky's the limit, really, with what we can do here.